Okay, great. So, hi everyone. My name is Jonah Cheng. I'm currently a junior at Yale University, where I study political science and history. And so that's why I'm really glad to have Elisa here, Elisa Law, who's currently a staffer in Nancy Pelosi, Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office, which is really cool. Um, and so we're so lucky to have her. And so we're just going to talk about her heritage, about Asian American Heritage Month, and kind of learn a little bit about what it's like to be an Asian American in a congressional office. Elisa, thank you for joining us. Uh,
Thank
and,
you.
and for our first question, I was wondering, could you just share a little bit about where you grew up and how your Asian American heritage kind of affected your childhood?
Sure. So my name's Elisa Law. I grew up in the Silver Spring, Maryland area, and I am the proud daughter of Chinese Vietnamese refugees. So that has had a big impact in my life. Um, and I first started working at the State Department in the protocol office under President Obama. And it was a very great experience, learned a lot. It's on the front lines of diplomacy. And then I went on the Hillary Clinton presidential campaign in New York. And then I came back to DC and started working for Speaker Pelosi. So I've been there for about 5 years. So two of those, she was leader, and then now three of them, she is speaker. So it's been a really great experience. I
Wow,
already
that's
forgot what your first question was. I'm sorry.
that's fine. That's more than fine. Wow, that sounds great. I know you mentioned how you worked at the Department of State and in Speaker Pelosi's office. Can you tell a little bit about why you decided to pursue a career in government and politics?
Sure. So, since growing up in kind of the Washington, D.C. area, I've been exposed to kind of seeing Capitol Hill and the White House in person. And I had this really one great experience with my dad at the Capitol. We met with Senator Ted Kennedy, and he was meeting us because he was the author of legislation. He was the author of legislation that raised the refugee ceilings that allowed more refugees from Vietnam to come after the war. So that was legislation that directly impacted my family. And to see Senator Kennedy kind of have that, you know, spark in his eye when he got to actually meet my dad and my family and see that, we've been really successful and made the American dream work. That was really inspiring to me for my public service career because it felt like we could actually get things done that could really, really directly impact people. And that's what I try to do every day.
Wow, yeah, that definitely sounds like a formative moment. Can you now talk just a little bit about where you went to school and what you studied? Did you study political science or government?
So I did political science and I also did American studies. I went to George Washington University. So that really helped a lot with my political career in terms of doing a lot of internships. I interned also growing up in this area, I interned with the Honorable Sam Mock in Secretary Elaine Chao's Department of Labor. So that was my first insight into public service and government. And then in college, I was able to intern at a lot of different agencies, which I felt very lucky about. Department of Transportation and then Department of State. And I ended up actually working at the Department of State. But I did American Studies as well in school, and I actually really enjoyed it. I did a cultural criticism class, and I thought it was a really good way to make sure you're always critically thinking. We did a lot about kind of media bias back then. So it's very interesting to think about that now. So that was one of my favorite classes in college.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds really interesting. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what sort of like a day in the life on the Hill looks like as a congressional staffer.
Okay. So a typical day is very long and hard, but it goes by very quickly. But so we kind of start our day. I mean, the speakers known to be the hardest working person in Washington, D.C. I definitely think she lives up to that name. She has a lot of energy, so it takes a whole army of people to keep up with her. So I am her special assistant, and I actually kind of am her body person, so go around with her everywhere. With COVID, we're doing a lot of virtual meetings, so we kind of start our day with lots of virtual meetings, and then we figure out what the vote and debate schedule on the floor is. And then we kind of go from there. There's probably multiple vote series in a day, lots of debate on the floor about different legislation that's happening, running around a lot, making sure that I'm kind of two steps ahead of her, so that our day goes smoothly and keeping us on schedule. And then I'll be on the floor with her for votes, which is a little hectic sometimes. We have a very small margin nowadays, and so we really need to make sure everybody votes the way they say they're going to vote. Otherwise, if we're off by two people, we could lose a big piece of legislation. So that's just one day. And then we do that all over again the next day.
Wow, that definitely sounds like a lot to fit into one day. I was wondering what your most memorable moment has been so far in your career on the Hill.
That's hard. Just somebody. Let's see. I'm gonna try to maybe insert more Asian American stuff here. So that was Thursday. So the most memorable moment that I've had just recently, especially given AAPI Heritage Month, I felt so honored to be at the White House on Thursday for the bill signing that President Biden and Vice President Harris participated in for the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. It was a bill that encompassed all hate crimes act, but very, very much focused on the rise in anti-Asian American hate that's happening right now in the United States. I felt very special to just be in that room among so many lawmakers. There were actually families of people who have been victims of hate crimes. So it was a big honor to be there, especially in May of all things. So the big thing that I took away from that was in that same room, maybe 2 years ago or 1 year ago, there was the start of a lot of anti-Asian sentiment from a very powerful podium, and to come back a year later and see President Biden actually signing into law that we would unite against hate was very special.
Wow, that does sound like a special moment. Do you have any other events that you've been taking part of as part of Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month that the speaker may be taking part of, as well?
Yes. So the speaker has a very, very diverse district in San Francisco, lots of Asian Americans in her district. So we've been very, very aware and sensitive about all the anti-Asian hate that's been happening, especially in San Francisco, but all across the United States. So we've participated in lots of roundtables with many different Asian communities, especially there's a big San Francisco Chinatown community. And we've been talking to them about what legislation can impact their lives. Also, not only about hate, but small businesses during COVID and how they can get some relief. So it's been really something that we've been doing for the last year. And it's really culminated into an amazing bill that we got passed, the COVID-19 Anti-Hate Act that just passed last week. So it's been a really a lot of work needs to be done, but a little sigh of relief when that bill got signed by the president. So it's been amazing.
Yeah, it was definitely a very important piece of legislation. Just one last question for you today. As you've embarked on your career in public service and in government, would you have any advice to young people, especially young AAPI people who are interested in working in politics or in government?
Okay, so my advice to young AAPI people working in government or public service is that you be yourself and speak up, talk about your heritage and be proud of it. I think sometimes culturally, maybe we tend to be a little bit shy about our food and our culture and all of that, and we shouldn't be. And I think that people are actually very embracing of it, and we should be loud about it, and we should be the voice for the voiceless because we need more AAPI voices in public service and in government. So I would say to all the young people that want to be in public service, work really hard. That's to be expected and always something that your parents tell you. So do work really hard, stay long, stay late hours, and but really speak up when there's something that you feel strongly about, because that is a voice that needs to be heard throughout government.
Wow, that was really inspiring. Well, that's all the questions I have for you today, Elisa. Once again, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.